we have started streaming. Just got to sort of link in here and we will get going. There we go. Alright, we are there. We are live. It's always cool. Okay, so just finished up with work for the day, helping on a boat. And I just was taking a quick look at what's been going on. I know I just did an update the other day, but it's sort of really interesting between the three people who are in the lead, what's actually happening. And we'll take a look real quick at sort of their positions. I guess first, well, I always want to start out with Elliot because he's my man out there, but he's still got a good ways to go. As far as his weather goes, he made it through all the ugly stuff. He is, let's see, where exactly? Let me find him exactly. Let's see. Hope everybody's having a good day out there today. All right, 40-23, 93. All right, 40-23, 93, 40-23. So he's right around, somewhere around there. Nice, blowing 25 knots exactly in the right direction. So he is blasting towards Fremantle or Perth or wherever the heck he's definitely going to keep going. But yeah, I mean that's pretty ugly, not super comfortable weather, especially if you're in a boat that's not doing all that well. But it does seem like he is. I mean, it's favorable, and if we look at the forecast going forward, he's going to have pretty much favorable conditions. Everything's ugly is staying south of him, and it doesn't look like he'll get becalmed for another couple of days. Then the winds are going to go light, really light. He'll be probably pretty upset about that, but generally speaking, he's getting out of the Southern Ocean proper pretty soon, and he'll go from battling these two ugly systems that he just went through to being becalmed and probably pulling his hair out trying to just get back up there to Australia. But the long range forecast is looking pretty darn good. I mean, you can't trust anything 9 days out, but as far as right now, he made it through this ugly stuff and then going to where it is exactly like right now. He's in a strong southwesterly, and he's headed to the northeast, so he's definitely loving that, and that's really good. Okay, so the really interesting ones. Well, I guess first and foremost too, the guy Michael, he has finally left Tasmania. He left Hobart, and that is awesome. He was there for like 2 days, I think, on a mooring, and from what I understand, he was sewing in a third reef point in his mainsail. I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't have like total confirmation. Like, I'm getting bits of information from people all over the place, but he's back on his way. You can also see the old track of Bernard Montessier. He went in there and actually, when he was doing this, and it would have been 69, he dropped off a film canister with notes and letters and stuff to some fishermen who were just fishing outside of Hobart, and they reported back that this lone sailboat came by and he looked emaciated, was their words. So he was, because his diet on this voyage, he drank a lot of Ovaltine, and he smoked a lot of cigarettes, and he drank wine, and it wasn't, he was on a total sort of Spartan diet of just, next to nothing. So much like I looked when I pulled into the Falklands to try and get my food drop, I'm sure he was just, he must have looked so skinny and ridiculous. But again, if you've read his book, you know that Montessier he really did have a phenomenal trip as far as his like the winds and everything like that. He only went through like one actual gale, I believe, on the whole thing in the Southern Ocean and such. And so he really he was very fortunate as far as his position during all the weather systems going all the way through the Southern Ocean. Now, so Michael's got to go through the South Tasman, which is a pretty ugly, ugly place. I know I went through a gale just about a third of the way across that was pretty scary because there are actually a lot of weird currents and such that go on down there. But let's see what his because it's not that huge of a gap. I think it's like 700 miles or something, not even. But let's see what it's going to look like for his crossing. He's got some. See, this is, yeah, he's right on the edge, so he's right about here. So he's got light winds for now. But most of the stuff is going to be dropping in. It's really these easterlies that they get you. It wasn't until I was south of New Zealand where I ran into my first easterlies, like proper, and they stopped me dead in my tracks. And it's so disheartening because you're making progress, you're trying to get east, and you're in the land of the westerlies. And I don't know, it was just it's bananas when it does happen and you get nailed. It's definitely not very fun. Let me close off some of these other things. There we go. But yeah, so let's see. His week looks like it kind of fills in a little, but it's pretty ugly, like unsettled, messy, calms, all that stuff. That's going to be like a slow crossing to get past New Zealand and into the Pacific. But the real update here, what I really wanted to get into, was the three people who are in the lead. So we have, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but I think it's Abelash, and then we've got Kristen, and then we've got Simon. So Simon's well off in the lead now, and they were a lot closer heading into this, and these two were just straggling behind. But yesterday or the day before, they ran into this calm patch. So going as far back as I can, they're down here. Simon's over here. That's again probably like 500-600 miles now. But they basically ran into easterlies, kind of hove to, and sat for a little bit, and then it's been nothing but this stupid little calm patch. Now they're going to get a little boost here for a hot second coming out of the south, but then the calm stretches right back into them again. And hopefully, the problem is the winds come up from the south, so they can't go to the south to get to the next bit of weather down here. And that's going to be, I don't know, that's going to be a pain. And look at this, watch this, just day after day after day, and then they finally get into some clean air, literally like 4 days, 5 days from now. And now watch this system up in the top as that starts to come down. They may have to contend with that, which, by the time it hits them, it's not going to be too bad, but it's an unsettled, way off in the forecast, sort of almost cyclone looking thing. And I don't know, it definitely doesn't look fun, and it's going to be a nightmare. Meanwhile, if you're Simon and you're over in this area somewhere, he's going to be riding pretty much good wind, working with it. There's another 150 miles, there's another 150 miles, still in good wind. Now he's even in better wind. He's literally going to be screaming along. He'll probably be way out here somewhere over the next 4 or 5 days, and basically not having to deal with that calm patch at all, if only for a day or so. Meanwhile, these two back here are going to be struggling to actually push forward and make some ground. So this is, I don't know, I think it's a good example of how these long distance round the world ocean races are really, they're interesting. They're dependent on not only how fast you sail when the wind is good, but really, in the Southern Ocean section, or even in the doldrums, you're out there, and if the weather patterns change and you somehow hook into a spot where there's wind and everybody else gets in this calm patch, all of a sudden the distances can just grow like crazy, and suddenly you can find yourself. I mean, I would think that Simon will probably be able to extend his lead over the next like 5 days to upwards of 1,000 miles almost. I think it can be that drastic of a thing because, right now, just to give you an idea, so Kristen is doing 1.1 knot, 2 knots. Simon is doing 6.3 knots, and that's some average or whatever. But yeah, essentially every 24 hours that they are not moving and he is, essentially he's getting another 140, 150 miles further along. So it's going to make up a huge it's going to make it very hard for them to then proceed to catch up. But at the same time, their track along the Pacific is like 4,500 miles to Cape Horn. A lot can happen. Simon could have a breakdown. Simon could end up in a big calm patch that he can't get out of, and then these two can catch up. So, the race isn't really over by any means. There's still so much ocean and so much more sailing to do before you're actually finished. But I don't know. I think it's really interesting, and it kind of keeps this whole game very interesting that they're all playing out there. So it's pretty cool stuff. And, these two guys are down there. I guess we'll check on the weather and them. I think they're actually going to be doing all right. Most of the systems, that might be a little ugly one. They're about here and here. So they've got some decent wind. Most of those drop down towards the south as they get underneath Australia. But they've got to get up there to Tasmania and such. And remember, this is the peak of the summer down there. So that's why you're seeing a lot of this fickle wind and calm patches and all that sort of stuff. But you can still get monster, crazy, cyclone-ish storms. And they can get pretty ugly. I remember reading something from an old Cape Horner, and they talked about how they actually preferred sailing around Cape Horn in the wintertime down south, because it was more consistent, just super strong wind. And they said that in the summer they felt like the storms were more violent. There were less of them, but they were far more violent than they actually were. So his mizzen mast. Okay, I wonder if that's a little update about Michael. So yeah, who knows? It's pretty crazy. It's going to be interesting to watch the Pacific arena play out and see how these three are going to do. And then always, everybody's going to keep their minds and their good vibes on old Elliot making it his landfall in Australia. As heartbreaking as it must be to sort of have to bail out of one of these races, I'm sure that's the last thing on his mind. He's probably just like, all right, get me back there, get me safe, let's fix my boat, and then, who knows what he's going to do after that, but we'll just have to sort of see. All right, well, that is my little quick update for the Golden Globe for today, January 5th, and more to come. I'm just going to keep my eye on it, and I think whenever it sort of suits me, I'll hop on and do one of these, because I know it's not really, it's not about sort of getting a ton of people in the chat when it's live, but people can watch these afterwards and get a little update in. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks, a huge amount of support and everything. The channel's growing like crazy. We're almost up to like 5,000 subscribers. Last year at this time, I think I was at like 1,000 something. So it's been pretty cool. And I have a new video coming out pretty soon, so that should be a lot of fun. But other than that, thank you all